Alright, so today we're going to talk through the importance of podiatry care. Feet are a weird sort of thing. Most people sort of think about feet and they think, well, it's not a very exciting topic, is it? So hopefully today I'm just going to explain a bit about why your feet are important and talk a bit about how they play a really important part in your life as well. So today we're going to talk about the importance of podiatry care, or how to build an amazing life from the feet up. So, as we talked about before, why feet? Most people say to me, how on earth can you deal with feet every single day of your life? And you know, doing this every day seems a bit of a strange and weird thing to most people, and looking at these strange little things. But when we think about feet, your feet are the only part of your body that touches the ground when you move, when you walk, when you exercise. So if your feet aren't working properly, then every part of you can suffer because of that as well. So feet are pretty darn important. So they are really quite amazing. Let's have a bit of a look at feet. So in your feet, each foot has 26 bones, 33 joints, 19 muscles, 10 tendons, 107 ligaments or so. And all of this has evolved to work together to be able to help you move, walk, run, jump, and all these sorts of things. So if part of this structure doesn't work properly, then all the other parts have to work a lot harder. And this is often how we start to have problems with our feet. Because if something's been damaged, then something else works harder, then that might get damaged, and something else has to do that job. So it's this bit of a problem that we can get into. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on in your feet. So the average person walks about 170,000 kilometres in a lifetime. To put that in context, because that's quite a big number, and for me it's hard to fathom what 170,000 kilometres look like. The circumference of the globe, of the planet Earth, is 40,000 kilometres. So in your lifetime, you're going round and round and round and round. So when I think of it like that, I get a better picture of how much work your feet are actually doing throughout your life. And that's the average person. That's the person that just wanders around, does a normal life. But people like you, who are exercising and walking and doing a lot of things, that gets a lot bigger. So 170,000 kilometres is the average, right? Your feet carry about 200 tonnes per day. So that's the cumulative load of every step that you take throughout your day. Once again, these numbers are hard to put in context. So if you imagine 200 tonnes is a blue whale. So every day you imagine strapping a blue whale onto your back and standing there. That's what your feet are dealing with every day. So that's a lot of load. And it's every single step you load your feet. So when we walk, we put about 2 to 3 times our body weight through each foot. When we run, it can be about 7 to 9 times your body weight. So every time you take a step, if you weigh 50 kilos, you're putting about 100, maybe 120 kilograms of force through that foot with every step. So you can see now that as we do more, as we become more active, we get more stress on our feet, which then puts more load onto our joints, our bones, our ligaments, and our tendons. So unfortunately, women are 4 times more likely to have foot problems compared to men. There are a number of reasons for this. There are hormonal issues, the fact that women have babies, the chemical changes in the body when women have babies causes a change in the ligament structures, which makes childbirth easier, but it also makes all the foot joints, ligaments stretch, which makes the feet more vulnerable as well. Footwear is a big problem, especially with women. Society has dictated that women wear these tiny shoes, even though their feet are normal size, which then puts a huge stress on feet as well. I'm really lucky as a bloke, I can wear the most disgusting clodhoppery type shoes and no one looks twice at me. And it's a real issue that it should be the same for everybody. You know, it was International Women's Day the other day and you have all these pictures of women standing up in these horrible shoes, and I look at it and go, that's not fair. That shouldn't be the way.
They were beautiful shoes.
I will say, they look lovely. They look lovely. And if all you're going to do is this, that's fine. If you're going to be standing for 12 hours a day, then that's a different thing. And some people can walk really nice nicely in high heels. Other people look like farmers in gumboots. I don't know what it is. It's the mechanics of the way we work and walk, but shoes are a big problem, I think, in feet. You know, we want our feet to be able to do this sort of thing for as long as they possibly can, and we need to train them, keep them strong, keep them active to keep you going. So I come back to my original question of why feet. So for me, we look at these tiny baby little feet, and you know, when the babies are born, I remember my kids' feet looking like this, and there is so much potential just sitting right there. You know, there's a whole lifetime ahead of these feet, and our job as podiatrists is to try and help people have a great life without their feet letting them down. You know, we want to see people out and about, climbing mountains, playing with kids, watching grandkids. All these things start from the feet up. That's from, I believe, as a podiatrist anyway. Because you imagine everything that you do through the day. Now, think about that. How would that be affected if you can't use your feet? From the simple thing of getting up in the morning, if you've got foot pain, you don't want to come to gym, you don't want to come and work out, you don't want to do anything. You start to second guess everything. Do I want to go out with my friends today because I know I'm going to get really sore feet by the end of the day? No, I'll stay home. Do I want to do the gardening that I need to do? No, I won't be able to do that. Do I want to go for that walk with my friends and end up at the coffee shop? No, I can't do that. So foot pain is not just about a lifestyle limiter, it's a social thing as well, because foot pain limits our social ability. So once we start having problems with the feet, we do less. The less we do, the weaker we become, which increases our risk of falls. It reduces our bone mineral density, which then can lead to fractures if we fall as well. So simple things about getting your feet right then lead on to a whole bigger world of benefits. Now, I do apologise, there's a little bit of science coming up, so any of you that don't like science, I apologise, I love science. No, that's good. Science is brilliant, that's good. Force is really important to feet. We talked earlier about the amount of weight that our bodies, where our feet carry throughout the day and how far they go, but it's force that's the big issue here. So every time we take a step, the ground pushes back to us. So every time we hit the ground hits back with an equal and opposite force. And this handsome chap, Sir Isaac Newton, developed these wonderful 3 laws of motion that we apply as podiatrists in managing foot pain and issues with feet. So the first law is that body at rest stays at rest. So a body at rest stays at rest until an external force is applied to it. So if you're sitting on a chair like that, you have to generate a force to move. If you're moving, a force has to be applied to that movement to stop it from moving. So force is really important here. The second law is that force is linked to mass. Force is linked to mass, force equals mass times acceleration. Standing here like that, I'm not moving, but gravity is pushing down on me. So my body mass and gravity is generating the force at the level of my feet. Now what that basically means is the bigger and heavier we are, the larger the force that goes through our legs, our feet, our ankles, our knees, our hips, our back. So that's why this sort of place is really important, because we're keeping it a healthy weight, which helps to reduce stress on all of the joints and ligaments and bones and tendons in our body as well. And the really big one here is the third law of motion, that when a foot hits the ground hits back with an equal and opposite force. And this concept is really weird, because we often think that we move forwards. But what's happening is, as you're pushing, you're actually pushing into the ground, and that ground is generating a force which then pushes you forwards. So it's that interaction of your foot hitting the ground which then drives you forwards. And I think that's really bizarre, because you think, I'm moving, but actually the world's pushing you along as you go. So it's great. It's science. It's brilliant, isn't it? But what that means is the harder we hit the ground, the harder the ground hits back. Now, if your foot's not operating very well and it can't manage those loads generated by that ground reaction force, then parts of the feet are going to be overstressed and potentially get damaged. Now, sorry, question? No. So we have external forces like when the foot hits the ground, but we also generate internal forces through muscle action. So as we get stronger, as we do more gym classes, our muscles develop, which means we're generating more force in our body as well. So we have impact forces and we have internal forces. So it's this complex interplay between our body interacting with the world around us and what's happening inside of us that dictates how the body is loaded, how the joints are loaded, how the tendons are loaded, and the ligaments are loaded as well. So part of our job as podiatrists is to understand this play between externally generated forces, internally generated forces, and then how they affect all of the joints in the feet, knees, and hips to make sure that we can keep our clients doing the things they need to do. So this is what we refer to as the kinetic chain. So when we hit the ground, I'm going to keep going over this because it's a great concept, the ground hits back. Now if that foot doesn't manage that load properly, then it's the ankle, or the knee, or the hip, or the back, or the spine that has to deal with that load. And this is what we refer to as the kinetic chain. You know, we have this wonderful skeletal system which is all surrounded by these muscles here. Now, if these muscles aren't doing the right things, it won't move the bones in the right way. And if the bones aren't sitting in the right positions or the feet are collapsing, then that changes load as well. So it's this interplay between ground forces moving up and affecting the body and muscle forces affecting all of the body as well. So what happens when things go wrong? Typically foot pain from my point of view. If I were a physio, I might talk about back pain or knee pain or things like that, but we see a lot of foot pain in people who are very active or trying to be active or have had an injury. So if we look at the reasons for foot pain affects about 13 to 36% of the population, which is quite a big population. You know, that's a third of us will have some degree of foot pain throughout our entire life. It's associated with being female, older age, and obesity. So once again, being female causes more stress through hormonal changes, footwear issues, the fact that we carry babies on one side, all these things cause different stresses on the body as well. Now, foot pain usually leads to reduced activity. Now, that reduced activity then leads to reduced strength, increased weight, reduced fitness, or mental health, which often then contribute to more pain. And mental health issues with exercise, there's a very clear link between having a really good mental health and being active and involved in things, and not being active and having a poor mental health as well. So once we get this pain developing because of all of this, that leads to more reduced activity, which then leads to further reductions in strength, increased weight, reduced fitness, poorer mental health, which leads to more pain, and then the cycle continues. So our job as podiatrists is to try and deal with this foot pain so it doesn't reduce activities, so we're not seeing reduced strength, increased weight, and all these things that then go on to feed that negative cycle all the time. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Now, primarily there are two causes of foot pain. The first is what we refer to as a sudden overload. And this is like when you sprain your ankle, if you have a fracture or a traumatic injury, or you drop a grip on your foot. It's something where the forces generated within the foot are way too high for the tissue to tolerate all of a sudden, and it causes acute damage. The second type of foot pain is what we refer to as a repetitive overload. So these are things where you're being active, you're doing lots of steps, you're just repeatedly stressing the foot just a little bit, but that little bit of stress over 5,000-10,000 steps a day, every day of the week, causes a little bit of damage, which makes the tissue weaker, which means it doesn't tolerate load, which means you just keep getting that little bit more stress and damage all the time. So we see this a lot in our clinics as well as things like plantar fasciitis or fasciopathy, tendonitis, tendinopathy, bursa neuroma, stress fractures, and these are things that sort of start, you sort of think, oh, my foot's a bit sore today, oh, it's okay. It's a bit sore tomorrow, it's a bit sore the next day, a bit sore the next day, and it's just things that build over time rather than happen at an acute sudden level. And the third cause of foot pain is more internal medical things like DVT, neuropathy, nerve changes, vascular issues, arthritis, diabetes. All of these sorts of things have more of a medical basis to it. But as podiatrists, we have to understand all of these things. And the interesting part is, legally, I'm allowed to treat from here down. But to understand here down, I have to know all of this, because the feet and below the knees isn't an isolated thing. So we have to understand how diabetes affects the body, circulation, nerve issues, medications, diet, exercise. We have to know how all of these things can affect the whole body to understand how they have an effect. So we're kind of, if you think of us more these days as like, yeah,
What is DVT?
deep vein thrombosis. Yeah. So we kind of think of ourselves more like GPs from the knee down these days. So we have to deal with all general medical aspects of foot care from the knees down. Now, I put this up here. You're all doing hopefully your walk for Catherine House. The reason I thought I'd bring this up today is that when we do have a challenge to increase our step count, one of the risks that we face is that we suddenly go, beauty, I'm going to do 10,000 steps a day. Even though I've only been doing 3,000 steps a day, I'm going to massively increase that so I can do something really great like charity work like this. The risk for that is that little bit of a sudden increase can then make you a bit vulnerable to stress or damage that could lead to foot problems. So when we do anything like this, it's really important just to keep in mind your level of fitness, talk with your instructors, talk to people who can give you advice about how can we safely increase these activity levels. Rather than going from an activity level down here to an activity level up here, that's a risk factor for developing foot pain right there and then. We want to see people slowly just increase their activities over time as they build strength and condition, rather than go from not very much to a whole lot, because that's a major risk for foot pain moving forwards. So I'm going to talk you through a couple of simple things that we can do, if you're okay now, to help build strength and help to prepare you for things like walking challenges that will just give your body a bit more functional capacity to make sure that you've got the strength to do these sorts of challenges, okay? Exercise with this one that you can do just to help stability. So you can do this one with a shoe off. So if you want to whip a shoe off, Alright, so under the foot, we've already started. That's cheating. We've done this before. So popping it under the foot. Now this is a really good self-massage tool. If you've got a bit of soreness in your feet or some discomfort under the arch, this effect of rolling around like this can be a really nice way of just massaging the foot. And if you find any tight spots underneath there, just sit on that and roll it backwards and forwards. You can take it out of the bag if you like. You can take that one home. So rolling out. The next one is rolling little circles around, just to balance that. Yeah, just moving that up and back, moving to a different position. Yeah, that's good. Now the next challenge is going to be standing up and repeating that.
That's nasty.
Backwards and forwards. Yeah. If you don't feel stable enough, or if you feel you need support, a little hand on a stool or a little hand on a bench next to you, just moving backwards and forwards. That's it. And then you can do side to side on that one as well. The next one you can do is just is rolling it forwards. Get it right out in front there. Then control it, roll it back, then try and roll it behind you a little bit, control the ball. So this is doing a couple of things. This is going to work firstly on your balance. Secondly, it's going to work your single leg strength on this leg that's standing here. And it's also going to work the small muscles in your feet to try and control that. And then you swap around onto the other foot and you do the other way. Okay? This is also really good if you've got some tight muscles anywhere. Use this for shoulders, your butt. If you've got a sore muscle in the butt, you can get it up and down on the wall and roll in between the shoulder blades on the wall like this as well. Brilliant for that sort of thing. So that's just a really simple balancing exercise. Now please, if you feel unstable, having a hand on a chair is a really good option for you there. Okay? Alright, so pop the balls away. The next thing we're going to work on is we're going to do a little calf exercise. So you need to be, if you can, behind your chairs or on a wall somewhere here. Now when we walk, calf muscles are really important for driving us forwards. And we often find that as professionals that we see a lot of clients with slightly weaker calf muscles. So the calf raise is a really simple thing that you can do every single day to help build a bit of strength, okay? The simplest way to do this is going to be at a wall or a chair, slowly pushing up onto your big toe joint. And you can see with this one, try to avoid going sideways. Try to go up onto that big toe joint as high as you can, and then slowly up. So I usually count 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. Then down 4, 3, 2, 1. Get it? And go up again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. Down 2, 3, 4. So that's a really simple one. If you repeat that one each day, you can do that when you're brushing your teeth in the morning, and that helps to build more strength and condition into the calf muscles. If you're on hard surfaces like this, a pair of sneakers is probably better just to protect the balls of your feet, or if you've got carpet at home, that's really good. Now variations on that one, we can go put 1 foot forwards just a little bit. Now you're focusing on this leg at the back, so going up again and keeping your front toe on the ground as you go. Most of your body weight's in the back one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4, down 2, 3, 4. Does that feel a bit harder doing it that way? Yeah, so what you're doing there is you're putting a little bit more load onto that back leg to build a bit more strength onto that one. So that's the progression. You go from the double leg to the half leg, and then when you feel really confident, you can go to the single leg. And then back down, same thing, slowly, up 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4, down 2, 3, 4. That feels even harder?
Yes.
Yeah. So usually what I get people to do is to start with the double leg until we're confident that you can do 10 to 15 of those twice in every day. Once you do that, then you go into the split position. And if you do that for about a week, 10 to 15 each leg, and then you can maybe move on to that one in about 3 to 4 weeks or so with that. So calf muscles are hugely important. Things like plantar fasciitis, tendinopathies, arch pain can all be made better by starting with calf raises a lot of the time. Because the calf muscle is the muscle that drives a lot of our foot function. Also the muscle in the back here called your posterior tibial muscle, which holds the arch up. That one works when you go up onto the toes there. So you're also helping to build the muscles that stabilise your arch quite nicely, okay? So those 2 little exercises are probably the best ones that you can start with to help build a bit of strength and condition so that you can start doing more walking and more activity. So the little ball roll, preferably the standing ball roll, and then the calf raises. And let's do a balanced one. Come forwards, find a little bit of space. So this one is what we refer to as a 4-point exercise. So a little bit of space. We're going to start on the left leg. What you do is you touch forwards, touch to the side, touch behind, and then turn like a curtsy. Okay, that's it. Yep. And with this one, you want to bend that weighted leg just a little bit. So side, back, curtsy. And curtsy, that's it. And if you do that about 4 or 5 times on each leg, what you're working on, firstly is your balance. Secondly, you'll start to feel it in your thigh, through here as well. And it will gently load your kneecap just a little bit as well. A lot of people start to get front of knee pain when they start to walk and do too much exercise. So this one's a really good one for just putting a little bit of gentle stress into that area and loading that one up a little bit. So that's our 4-point tap, so that one. Once you get better at that, you can start to really push into it. But that's something that happens after you've done this for a while, okay? So to start with, just a short little tap is the best way to go with this one. Yeah? Okay. Well done.
Joy would be able to do that.
In Wednesday's classes,
Yes.
we do core and balance on Wednesday.
Brilliant. Yeah.
We'll be practicing and educating everyone else on this on Wednesday.
Yeah. So if you do those 3 things every day, that's a really good start to building some strength into the legs and the feet. That will help you with your normal day-to-day activities and as you start to do more walking and things as part of this challenge. Okay? All right. I might just quickly go through a little bit of what we can do now. So grab a seat. So how do we help? Part of what we do is we need to find your reason, your why. People you know, people come to us and they say, I want you to fix my foot pain. But what they're saying to us is, I can't spend any time with my grandkids because I get sore feet. Or I can't walk the dogs anymore because I've got sore feet. So that's what we refer to as your significant emotional event. Once we have a really good grounding for your real why, not just your foot pain, but your real reason for trying to get better, what we do then is we find a way to manage your pain, because we know pain stops activity. So if we can keep you moving, keep you active without pain, that's the first step. Once we do that, we need to offload the damaged tissue. Damaged tissue doesn't tolerate force as well as healthy tissue. So if you've injured something, we need to find a way to take some of the force out of that tissue to start the healing process. And whether that's through slightly reduced activities, modified activities, footwear, orthotics, all those sorts of things contribute to help take load off the tissue. Then we look at improving the tissue health, things like dry needling, shock waves, manual therapy, massage. All of these things start the healing process, which then allows the tissue to start healing up. And then the fourth thing is to make it stronger. Part of what Jody's doing here is about building strength. We as podiatrists, we look at the pain, the damage of the tissue, improving the health of the tissue, so that then you can start really focusing on building strength long term. Strength is really important. You want to be strong for your life. Our lives these days encourage us to sit there and binge Netflix or look at Facebook or something like that. And when we do that, we're not out in the garden as much, or we're not out doing the things that we used to do years and years ago. So building strength is super important.
Can I ask you what, I don't understand what offloading damaged tissue means.
Yes, okay. Say for example you have a damaged Achilles tendon. Maybe you've got a tendonitis or something like that. Every time you walk on that damaged tissue, you're causing stress, so force, and that potentially causes more damage. Offloading it means, how do we take some of the force out of that damaged tissue so it's not consistently
You're not
getting
actually
damaged?
getting rid of it.
No, not at all.
Oh, it is. I'm
What
sorry.
we're looking at is how do we reduce the stress or the force that's contributing to that damage.
Okay.
And that might be, you know, not doing these calf raises for a week, or it might be a heel raise to reduce the stretch in there, or it might be a change in shoes to reduce the stretch. It's all about trying to figure out what is the force that's contributed to that, and then trying to reduce that force so the tissue is not as damaged. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And once we get that process, it basically means reduce pain, take the stress out of the tissue, improve its health, make it stronger, then we get you back to what you want to do again. Then you find I've got more capacity, I can walk longer, I can spend more time at the gym, I can walk with the grandkids all day without pain, I can walk the dogs, I can get up and down the ladders, I can do the things that are important to me. So that's the cycle of treatment that we look at as podiatrists to make sure that our clients get better. This one for me is a great one. This is Larson, Gary Larson did this, the far side. We all want to line up at this window these days for the quick fix. What you're doing here is this window. This is lifestyle change more than anything else. And this window is better long term, and it gives you better results, and it keeps you stronger long term. This is the one that is the easy option, but it's not the long term option. So this lifestyle change, making sure you're doing stuff to build strength and capacity for your functional life, that's the important part of that. And really, it's just this, you know, it's having a healthy lifestyle. Our bodies need movement, we need the right sort of sustenance, and places like this are great because it's not just about, hey, lift this big weight, look great in the mirror and stuff. It's about how do we get a better lifestyle, and that's what it's all about really, I think. Yeah. Sorry, I'll leave it there.